Welcome back to the world of Tolerance 101 and the exposure group here at McDowell High School. We sit here today upon the 20-year anniversary coming up in March of the Holocaust Museum opening in Washington, D.C. With us today to kind of talk about that event and our exposure and tolerance and McDowell students traveling to the museum, we have a representative of the Jewish Community Council of Erie, Nancy Weil. We have two students from McDowell High School who have traveled to the museum on one of the many trips that we have taken through the generosity of the Jewish Community Council of Erie. We have Chelsea Elkhorn and Kara Kloss, and they've devoted their class time and sacrificed a great deal to be here today. So we hope to kind of stress the importance of these trips and the knowledge and the lessons learned from these trips, as well as, you know, the future, where we go from here and how we sustain the funding of this rather significant effort. So we'll start, I guess, with Nancy, if we could. And Nancy, welcome to
Thank
McDowell
you, David.
and MIHS. We are sitting here with two students that have gone. They're two of, gosh, I'm counting, and it's almost 2,000 from McDowell over the past
at least
past 12 years or so. So we, can you tell us a little bit about how this all started? Because, you know, without the relationship between Jewish Community Council and McDowell and Mill Creek, this really wouldn't happen, and the importance of that that working relationship is by no means underestimated here at McDowell. So go back a little bit and tell us where we started.
Well, it's my understanding before I showed up on the scene that many of the kids, the Jewish children that were attending McDowell, were experiencing anti-Semitism, and some of the parents got involved and the Jewish Community Council got involved, and we thought the best way to educate someone is to show them. So they gave, I believe it was you, money for the bus, and the bus holds 55 kids, so 55 people at a time. You started taking people to the Holocaust Museum down in D.C. Over time, it became a very good experience. I think right off it turned out to be the best way to show people. I think since 2002, we've paid for 32 buses, and several years ago, 2005, we were able to get some grant money of $25,000, and the Jewish Community Council of Erie put up $25,000, and we created a fund at Erie Community Foundation called the Holocaust Education Bus Fund. And we put it at the foundation because it's a public fund, and we were hoping to get public donations from people that felt this was a worthwhile way to educate students. Since then, we've been sending other schools. So this year we sent 7 buses. Woodrow Wilson sent 2 buses of 8th graders. Conneaut Lake, Conneaut Valley, both are taking 1 bus. Mercyhurst and Fairview are sharing a bus this year. And let's see, you of course have 2 buses. You've started taking 2 buses a year for quite some time now. And it has turned out to be the best way to educate students as well as adults as part of their coursework. Okay.
So it's a long history. So in a way, we kind of took a negative. There were some incidents going on about kind of unawareness of Judaism and the Jewish faith, and we kind of turned it into a positive. I remember sitting down with a former administrator and saying, you know, would you be interested in taking a bus of students to the Holocaust Museum? We have somebody that can fund that, and I thought, wow, that's great, because that is a challenge. So here we are today, and you know, it's been a remarkable journey. You know, I look at the students that have gone, and I just look at so many positive experiences that have come out of this venture. And, you know, do we hope to continue?
Well, I certainly hope so, but we're going to certainly have to find some money somewhere. I've been applying for grants here and there, but money's tightening up. We always try to put out there to the parents of students, if you know, that we'd like a donation if you can afford it. Certainly we would never ever deny any child, student, a seat on a bus because they couldn't make a donation. Hopefully they can. If not, that's okay. They need the education more than we need money. But we do need money to pay the bus company. And the Erie Community Foundation is where anybody can make a donation. They can do it off the computer, they can mail it, they can contact the Jewish Community Council, and we'd be happy to explain what we're doing and show them how they can help support this endeavor.
Okay, so it is quite easy if you wanted to be involved.
Absolutely. Erie Gives Day, we joined, that just started, which is a nice day in August that the Erie community is encouraged to donate to a nonprofit and get matching funds, and we're also a part of that.
Okay. Well, that's good news. We've, you know, I can't tell you how many. I've tried to track how many times I've gone on this trip, and I've done each and every one. And
well, I got a list here. You've been to a few.
Yeah, I've been to a few.
It's a tough trip. It's a long day. It's one day. It's not an overnight trip.
Yeah, it's the only way that a lot of students would have the opportunity to do so.
Absolutely.
So we look at we start here with the how we accomplish this and how we hope to sustain it. Now comes the second part and the most important part. So to understand that a student that plans on going on this trip, it isn't an overnight thing where they say, okay, I want to go, and they sign up and they go tomorrow. It's a process. So rather competitive process at McDowell. The students juggle around a lot of things to be able to go on one of the 2 trips per year. You sign up, you need forms. We ask students if you're able, $25 donation. Most students are able, some give a little more, some give a little less.
Yep.
And they must go to a meeting, after school meetings, so they're being told you know, no excuse, you have to be at this meeting. We're going to talk about this trip and what we hope to accomplish. And then they have to get up at, I don't know what time, you can share that with us, in order to be at McDowell by the time the bus pulls out at 4:30. It arrives at 4:30, pulls out, whether everyone's there or not, at 5 a.m. So today we have Chelsea and Kara with us, and they have gone on the trip. And we could have picked from many, many students, but I chose these 2 who are willing and able at the moment. And I'd like to ask both of you one at a time. We'll start with Kara. Why go on this trip? What got you interested in this whole notion?
Well, I guess initially the question I ask is why not go on the trip? You know, it has everything to offer, all action-packed into one very tiring but very rewarding day. I personally met with a Holocaust survivor for most of my life. She passed away 2 years ago, and though she spoke very broken English and didn't really talk about the Holocaust openly, it was just kind of a spiritual experience to know that I was still there for her and I could still connect with her, and ultimately that's what's going to save things from the Holocaust from occurring again. And I gained a lot from the experience, knowing exactly what she went through, so I could not only gain sympathy but empathy via the trip. And in addition, I went to the Women and Women conference over the summer, and I met very intelligent women from all over the world, but some of them simply did not know what the Holocaust was. And I couldn't believe something like that could occur in today's society, where we have all the information we could possibly want, yet there's still people who don't know about it. So obviously there's a flaw somewhere in their society, and the only way to get over that obstacle is to keep spreading awareness. So of course this experience is truly vital to promoting tolerance.
Okay, good start. Chelsea?
Well, like Kara said, it's one action-packed day. I mean, for $25 and a very generous donation and important donation to the Jewish Community Council, you get a trip to our nation's capital, you get to see the National Mall, you get to see monuments, not for very long, but you still get the gist of it, and then you get to spend time in the Holocaust Museum. I mean, I was an 8-year-old reading the Diary of Anne Frank, and that's just what lit the spark. I mean, wow, the Holocaust. And I guess as a child, I didn't really grasp the magnitude of the whole thing, but then as I got older, I'd read more and see more videos, and I always wanted to go to the Holocaust Museum, but I went on this trip in 10th grade and I didn't really have money to go, but I did give the $25, and that $25 stretched me more than anything could have. And a day in school is not even nearly worth this trip to DC to go to the Holocaust Museum. It's so important to be educated about this. And I think some of the kids that have gone on this trip don't realize what happened. Even though you try to teach and social studies classes try to teach, they won't realize until they go on the trip.
Okay, so it brings the reality to them.
Yes.
So Nancy, I suppose you're hearing a couple things that you'd like to hear, given the effort that goes into this. And stay tuned, because there's more. I'll give you a little bit of background on this trip and what happens. These young ladies, along with many others, are I don't know what time they get up. We'll ask them, and so they arrive and they go on the bus as they arrive, and we basically looking at, there are students that are there at 4 in the morning, and if there's a bus and I'm there, they'll get on it. So we basically ask them to go to sleep for a while. We have a stop along the way, and then we begin school, and we have a process. They have a folder for the day. They are studying some things that they will incur in the museum, talking about things such as Holocaust denial, and talking about the Warsaw Uprising, which is a film we watch on the way down to the trip, entitled Uprising. And that film will run all the way to the museum and a little bit afterwards as well. So they're getting a feel for what this is all about, and then the reality sets in once they walk into the museum. And mind you, we don't get back until about 12:30 in the morning, so a very dedicated high school student would be the only type of student that might do this trip. So having said that, how about girls, what were you expecting to see before you got into the museum? What were your thoughts about what you were about to encounter? Kara?
I know it'd be very informational, which it most certainly was, but I wasn't expecting the level of how emotional it would be as well. It didn't occur to me how much of an emotionally draining day it would be, and I think everyone that goes on the trip and takes something from it can concur with that. Also, the time of which it takes to soak up everything that they have there, I don't know. I just didn't expect it to be so grandiose, in a sense, that there might be only 4 floors, but there is hours upon hours, probably days.
You could spend a whole day
exactly,
there.
Of information there, of everything to soak in, and there were some points where I just had to sit down and think about it, which is, I don't know, what more could you want than that? So.
Okay, Chelsea.
Well, honestly, I expected a museum with artifacts, like your typical museum. There's this here, and then it tells about it here. But when you first walk in, it's just pictures and videos going, and the information is so supple, really, and it explains it to you in a way that even a child would understand. And it is a really emotionally draining day. There's a lot going on there, and I have since been back, because the whole main exhibit, 4 floors like she said, but to see everything, you can't just do it in one day. It's nuts, and really they did such a great job making the whole main exhibit, the permanent exhibit there. Like the third floor down is the camps and the final solution, and you feel, when you're walking through the ghetto part, you feel like you're walking in the ghetto. There are bricks there, and it just feels like you're there. And then there's the sign like they had when you walk into Auschwitz, that's there when you're walking into the part about Auschwitz. It is just very detailed and informative, and it's interesting. It's not just your boring average museum.
Okay, so you could have used a lot more time.
Oh yeah.
It's interesting to note that you went back as well, so that's testimony. I find, Nancy, that a lot of students go back.
They want to go back.
They want to go back.
I went on the trip in 2005, and it was definitely apparent to me at that point. It was my first trip down there. One, it's a long trip, and I have to give you a lot of credit to continue this trip. It's a lot of work on your part, and people don't realize how much a teacher has to put in just to get something like this going. But at least they're getting a taste. I mean, it's not all about the Holocaust. I mean, it is about the Holocaust, but there's so much genocide still continuing in the world today, and we have Holocaust deniers, and as long as there's people that deny it, education is absolutely paramount. It must continue. It's everywhere, and it's not just Jews. It's, you know, so much, and the student can come away with, you know, feeling something and making them think. It can affect their lives later on. You know, if we just make one really good decision later on because we saw something in school such as this trip, it's all for the better.
Okay, so
of humans.
Yeah, although it's a difficult day, I have a lot of help. I have chaperones that go with me.
Right.
If I recall, you arrived on a snowmobile for your trip.
Yeah, actually, they had started digging out my intersection. I live out in the snow belt, and in fact, the bus had to pick me up on the highway because the on-ramps were not open.
Right.
So
that was a very interesting day.
Well, there was no power. It was much better to be on the bus than in my cold house.
There you go. Okay, so knowing a little bit about the trip and knowing everything that we are pulling together here, what, Kara and Chelsea, what, if you had to tell somebody that has never been to the museum what to see, make sure that you see this, what is it that you would say to them?
Oh, where to start?
Pick something.
The sound bites that survivors of Auschwitz, oh my gosh, that room, I think I spent the majority of my time in there. It's a room where you can hear sound bites of people who did survive that particular death camp saying what their experiences was, and you can read along the quotes of what they have to say. I think that was the most haunting part for me, that part, because you know, there's no way you could possibly distance yourself from that person. You were there, you were hearing what they have to say. It's a complete primary source, and it is very impacting. So that definitely meant the most to me, and I would say if there's anything you could do in that museum, whether you have like 2 minutes or 2 hours, go in there first.
Okay. Chelsea?
Well, obviously I'd say the whole permanent exhibit, but you can't do that in one day. I mean, you can do it in one day, but not if you want to go through everything. I think the sound bites is very important. The entire final solution floor is really important. There's a spot where, actually this time I noticed that they had work bricks or something, the death stairs. Did you see that?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
They had the actual bricks there, and I had to feel it. They're pretty heavy. It'd be good for a workout, but I guess they worked these prisoners. They just had them walk up and down, walk up and down. Hours upon hours until you died from exhaustion. And I was just like, wow. I mean, that was so unexpected. And that's right next to a scale model of the crematoriums, or crematoria in Auschwitz. Mm. And that's very haunting as well.
It's just so tangible.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing these people, and you can actually, some of them you can see their faces, and you can see just the confusion pretty much, and you see where the guards are standing. I'd look at the scale crematoria that they have there.
What about the shoes?
Oh, the shoes. They have shoes in a room, and it's just not even a fraction of the shoes that the Germans collected from the prisoners. And when you walk in there, I know I went there with my godfather, and he said that was the room that stuck out to him the most. Yeah. And he's like, you just don't understand until you're seeing shoes.
Children's shoes, adult shoes, didn't matter. Mm-hmm. And the hair. They shaved everybody's head when they came in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nancy, advice for anyone from your standpoint?
From my standpoint, if you feel that this is a worthwhile venture for Mill Creek students to go on, donate to the fund at the Community Foundation. It's the Holocaust Education Bus Fund. I hope that this continues well into the next, 10, 20 years, however long we can make it go. But we've probably, there's been over $100,000 spent on buses just since I've started working for the Jewish Community Council of Erie. And, we need help to continue it.
Okay. And it should be noted that the bus, one of the reasons for the significant cost of the bus is having the bus all day, having to two different drivers because one driver can't be with the bus all day. So all those factors lead up to more than a typical day. So we're going to conclude here as we kind of finalize, and just very quickly, Kara, what lessons were learned about today's world in that museum?
You can't stop education about this because I know ignorance when someone says it only happened once and it's over, because as everyone knows, that is simply not true.
It's going on today. That
just goes to show census is still continuing today. Obviously, there is a greater need for education in it. So if anything, to take from this is that it's still going on today, and everything you wish that people living in Germany around camps or anything in the like, anything you wish they would have done to help those in the camps, you can do for people who are suffering from genocide today.
Okay, Chelsea?
I think this trip is beyond important because on the way down, you tell us about the people who don't think it exists, like President Ahmadinejad of Iran, doesn't believe the Holocaust ever existed, it never happened. How could you deny that? Education is important. Ignorance is not bliss, it's ignorance. And you absolutely have to fight the ignorance, because when you have ignorant people like that, then genocide happens. And it's happening now, and people don't know about it, so it's always important to be educated, just like Kara said.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Nance, closing remarks?
The Holocaust did not start with a war. It did not start with fighting. It started with words. It started with propaganda. It started with a book. And it still happens today. You see bullying, This bully could be next week's Hitler. You don't know.
And those are the ideas we try to convey in the tolerance class and so forth. Well, I want to thank you for taking time out today to be here with us.
I want to thank you.
Girls, taking time out of your valuable schedule, which I'm sure is stressful. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope, in the future, we always need chaperones for these trips. If anyone is interested, we need adults to go with us as well. But more importantly, we'd like to sustain these in the future. So thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you along the way. Thank you.
Thank you.